Sixers Fix with Scott Ninnis. Join one of the Adelaide 36ers' favourite sons as we deep dive into everything past and present about one of the most storied franchises in the NBL. It's Sixers Fix, your Adelaide 36ers podcast.
Here we go!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sixers Fix with Scott Ninnis, and I'm glad to be bringing this show to you when we're recording this straight off the big victory for the Adelaide 36ers against the South East Melbourne Phoenix as part of the NBL Cup. Plenty to dissect in that game, plenty to dissect out of what had happened leading up to that as well, and plenty to now look forward to as well, as there's not much in between games during this tournament. And of course, we will have all of our regular segments and give you all of the updates on what's happening to do with the Adelaide 36ers in the NBL. I'm Chris Pike, the co-host, but the man you've all tuned in to hear from, and the only man, and he's always going to be the only man to be involved in every NBL championship the Adelaide 36ers have won, Scott Ninnis. How do we find you this week?
Well, unless I win another one, mate, but which we'd be happy about as well. Chris.
Well, as we've talked about, technically you're still involved in the club, so that counts.
Chris, can I tell you how happy I am that we decided to do this podcast after the second game rather than after that last game against the Kings, because that would have been the most depressing, 30, 40 minutes of our life, I think. I mean, that game was that bad, but it was great to see the club come back and put on that sort of performance tonight. It was very exciting.
Yeah, our timing's perfect. So we'll talk about all of that, and we'll have our regular segment. So, of course, we're here thanks to All-Star Photos here to start off the show, but we'll bring you the Australian Motors Mitsubishi Player of the Week, and we'll announce the winner of that prize pack later in the show. We'll have an update on the leaderboard for the Premium Wine Tours Player of the Year Award, and thanks to Sports Card World, you'll catch up with your old mate Brett Marscott, and I'll also have the Ask the Coach segment with Connor Henry. So plenty to get through. Now, Scott, of course, this conversation we're having is all made possible thanks to All-Star Photos. Kelly Barnes was quick to jump on board as one of our great partners here at Sixers Fix when we put out the call at the start of this season to have some help to make this show possible, to keep us on the air. And what a photographer and what a photography business he's had for more than 25 years now. Here in Adelaide, you'll see him at all of the Adelaide 36ers games, but it's the grassroots clubs where he makes his big impact, and He makes it possible to create those lifetime memories for all of the kids playing local basketball, and also for the clubs to make some money for charity, to do some fundraising. He provides all of those options for the grassroots sporting clubs. He's helped raise over $10,000 in the past couple of years, and all of your basketball photography needs, whether it is those portrait shots, the team shots, or indeed your action shots, it's Kelly Barnes at All-Star Photos that has you covered. Make sure you get in touch with him at info@allstarphotos.com.au, or you can see more at allstarphotos.com.au, and tell him that you heard us talking about him here on Sixers Fix. But let's get straight into it. Had we talked after that first game of the NBL Cup on Sunday with a 19-point loss to the Sydney Kings on the back of I think it was a 15-point loss to the Brisbane Bullets last week, and a 19-point loss to the Kings only a couple of weeks ago as well. Might have been hard to find some positives. How badly did the 36ers have to bounce back in this game against the Phoenix?
Oh, mate, tonight was so important for the club. I can't even describe it. I mean, that game with the Sydney Kings, there were no positives to come out of it. It was, that third quarter, everyone has a bad quarter, but to come out the way they did, and it's not so much the fact they only scored 8 points in the third quarter, it's the way they went about it. They did not come out ready to play in that second half. Three of those turnovers they had in those first few minutes just were lazy turnovers. They just weren't ready to play, and then to go into the fourth quarter and not to put up a whimper was really alarming. I mean, it was just like I know we spoke about doing the podcast after that game. I'm not sure what I would have said to you, but a little bit like we spoke about, with the Brisbane Bullets coming back here 2 days after the game up there against the 36ers.
Yep.
This is what was the greatest thing for the 36ers, to get that next game 2 days later, to have a chance to right those wrongs. And now all of a sudden, that's done with. I mean, and when I say that, I know it's not done with. There's still some issues that we have to deal with, but that was a tough win tonight. The Phoenix, Mitch Creek, banging in threes, which is probably, the scout you have against him to give that up, but to hang on and be able to make the right plays down the stretch and to come out with that win was hugely important. And I think especially so against the Phoenix, because when they get Ryan Brockhoff into that team, he's a game changer for them. He's going to win some games by himself. We've now played them 3 times and we've won 2 of those games. Yeah. That won't be the same for every other team in the NBL now. So huge win. The Sydney game, the less said about it, the better as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. We won't be spending too much time delving back into that one. But yeah, this game against the Phoenix, I thought it was a really entertaining game, high quality game, pretty close in the first half. I thought the 36ers threatened to break away sort of halfway through the second quarter, but the Phoenix kept coming back. But then they did break away in the third quarter, and I thought Josh Giddey and Daniel Johnson were just outstanding. The way we've talked about the chemistry that Josh has with Isaac Humphries, but he's now developing that with DJ as well. And DJ just didn't look like missing any of the shots he was taking. And Josh was playing with great confidence. And then I think about a minute into the fourth quarter, there was a 17-point ball game, and I thought it was all over. But as you said, Mitch Creek then started jacking up the threes, and with a minute to go, it was a 1-point ball game all of a sudden, and it got pretty tight there in the end. And I thought the worst when that offensive foul call against Josh Giddey happened with 14 seconds to go, but luckily the worst didn't happen and they managed to hold on. It was a pretty eventful evening in the end.
Oh, mate, whatever way you look at it, you're completely right. I mean, I'm exhausted. I had nothing to do with the game. You ride the highs and the lows of that, and it just seemed like, I feel it was a game that we should win, going into it, regardless of what's happened in the last few weeks. Mitch Creek's a superstar of the competition, but, him having to guard Daniel Johnson, if we go about our business right and we get our spacing right and we play the game offensively the way we should, which we completely didn't do against the Sydney Kings, I felt it was always going to be difficult for them, and we did that tonight. And I just think it was, it's funny, I'm still struggling to work out what votes to give in that Sydney Kings game, and I'm still struggling to work out what votes to give tonight for 2 completely different reasons. That was the reason, which is quite, but Daniel Johnson is a star. Like, I mean, 7-footers he just makes, you're surprised if he misses. I mean, it's getting to that point now where the ball just needs to run through him. And I know we all talk about Josh Giddey and we all talk about Isaac Humphries because they've been incredible stars and it's so great to see them in 36 of colours. But Daniel Johnson is the barometer of this team. I mean, he's if he's not the best player in the competition, apart from the last game, like you talk about consistency, it's 20 and 10 every game. For 10 years.
He's basically done it for 10 years.
For 10 years, So it's, look, it's like, mate, I'm on a high. I'm really excited about what I saw tonight. And like I said, against a team that's going to win some games, especially when they add Broke-Off to their team. But no, really pleased with Connor and the team tonight.
There was some pivotal moments too. When the Phoenix had all the momentum halfway through that fourth quarter, and then Cam Glidden got a foul call on a 3-point shot, and I think at that point it would have made it let me just check, it would have made it, if he made all those foul shots, it would have made it a 2-point game at that point. But Connor Henry backed in Tony Crocker, who said he didn't foul him, and he made the coach's call. So they've introduced this coach's call where the coach can challenge one of the calls during the game, and it ended up going in the 36ers' favour. And I think that was critical because Crocker would have fouled out if that foul call counted, and also Glidden probably would have made the foul shots. That ended up being pretty important.
Mate, I'll be completely honest with you here. Like, I felt that on the replay that it looked like that he got him on the elbow after the release of the shot. I'm not sure what the rules are. To overturn that was huge for the 36ers. The other thing, and Ben, being completely honest, Crocker would have been out of the game. And at that stage, I actually liked the fact that when Kendall was on the floor, having that extra ball handler, and I know he threw up his customary air ball and had a couple other things, but I felt more comfortable with him on the floor tonight than Crocker.
Yep.
But to Crocker's credit, he stayed on the floor, and he did well. He was really important for us down the stretch. I think I get nervous when he's guarding a jump shooter. I think I'd rather see him guarding a guy that's more of a penetrator, because we've seen it in games, against the Kings.
It is a habit now for him to foul the jump shooter.
Well, he did it twice a night, and I mean that's like I've had former coaches say that's the worst playing basketball to foul a 3-point shooter. You do it twice in one game. I like him as guarding a penetrator. I think he can lose sight of shooters come off screen. We've seen it with Vasiljevic from Sydney and Glidden tonight. But all credit where's credit due. I thought he, the fact he stayed in the game tonight, maybe fortunately, he helped us get that win.
Now, what went through your mind when 14 seconds to go, the 36ers inbounded the ball and the offensive foul call went against Josh Giddey? What went through your mind then?
Mate, I've never been a big fan of referees when I was playing the game myself. And I've had this discussion with referees since I've stopped playing and coaching. I've apologised to them because I was a bit of a whinger myself, but you
must have had a lot of run-ins with Michael Aylan too over the years.
Oh, one or two. To me, that's. I don't want to say it's a flop, but that's Giddey didn't do a lot wrong there. That could have been a game-changer decision.
Absolutely.
I love the players deciding the outcome of games, and I'm not saying that it was probably one of those 50-50 calls. Maybe it was, or maybe it wasn't. But I'm just glad we got the win, mate. Let me tell you that. But once again, I'm not here to bag referees. They have the most difficult job in the game of basketball. Every time they blow the whistle, like half the people there are going to think it's a wrong call, half the people there are going to think it's a right call. So I think they do a fantastic job, and I'm just glad. I look back at that Sydney game tonight before the 36ers game, mate. If the Sydney Kings, the amount of times they complained about every call, they spent that much effort into playing basketball, they'd never lose a game. I just thought they completely lost their way tonight. So, you just get on with it and, see how we go.
No, it's an interesting thing. Trevor Gleeson's famous for writing the referees for whole games. Dean Vickerman, I think, is becoming more and more like that. But if you listen to Connor Henry when he talks to us here on our Ask the Coach segment, it's actually something he's focused on to not engage the referees as much and to make it a focus to talk to them politely, talk to them nicely, and to build up that rapport. It's actually something pretty important. And I think this team probably complains less to the referees than any other team in the league as a result of the attitude from the coach.
And I'm sure that helps too. When you see Josh Giddey complain or Isaac Humphries complain, there's probably a legitimate basis for it. When you see Vodanovich and some of these guys Sydney complain, well, mate, you're fouling you're like, what are you complaining about? So it's once again, I am not the role model to be talking about not complaining to referees, because I wasn't good in my playing days, and I'm sure there'd be a lot of referees I could line up that would agree with that. But if you're doing that, it's a distraction. So I think it's a great thing to be able to step back. Yeah, look, there's going to be bad calls. Like a great basketball shooter, a great shooter misses half of his shots. So, it's not a perfect game. A referee is going to get 1 or 2 or 3 bad calls in an entire game. So I think we're banging up the wrong tree if we're complaining about referees.
Do you like the coach's challenge, though? Do you like that the coach has that ability to use that once during a game?
No, I think it's a pain in the ass, mate. I just, like it's, you watch an NBA game now, and it's, the game takes hours. I don't have the time or the patience to watch all this crap going on. Like it's, and especially, the Phoenix, do that challenge tonight in the fourth quarter was clearly a foul. Like, Creek clearly fouled him. So, referees are human, they make mistakes, but I'm all for speeding the game up and, going with the flow. If the last quarter takes an hour, well, no one wants to see that crap, mate. I sort of get it, but I also, would just rather see. And it's a bit like the way cricket's going now with all the reviews and that. You're taking away. The umpire's scared to make a decision in case he's wrong. Let him have the final word. If he's wrong, well, maybe when they do their reviews, that's when he gets kick up the backside after the game. But I'm not happy with it, mate. I'd just rather see him get on with the game. Let this beautiful game that we have, that's fast flowing, doesn't have a lot of stops, just get through from start to finish.
Yeah, I think the one positive about it is that it isn't an extra stoppage in play, so it replaces a timeout, so we're not getting an extra stoppage. That's the one positive, but I agree, we can probably live without it, and it just seemed to pop up from nowhere. All of a sudden, in the first game of the NBL Cup, we found out that the coaches could have a coaches challenge all of a sudden, which is different rules to the rest of the season, which is another little peculiar thing. But some of these numbers, Scott, from the team, from the win against the Phoenix, and this is why the voting for this game is going to be pretty tough, but some really impressive numbers. Daniel Johnson, 27 points, 10 rebounds, 10 of 16 shooting, 2 of 4 from 3, made all 5 of his free throws. Isaac Humphries, 24 points, 11 rebounds, 2 blocks, 11 of 16 shooting. Josh Giddey, probably his best game, 15 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds, 2 steals, 3 of 5 from three-point range too. And then other guys chipped in. Tony Crocker, 12 points. Sunday Detch, 8 points. Jack McVeigh, 7 points. Jeremy Kendall, 4 points. There was a lot to like from watching the game, but also if you go through those numbers, there was a lot to like there too.
Mate, absolutely. I mean, to me, after just watching the game, and it's very raw, to me, DJ was our best player tonight. I just felt that he set the game up, and he did what he did what he always does. I mean, he is, I can't even describe what he can, like step back off 1 foot and shooting, jump shots when you're 7 foot. I just thought
he plays like a 2-guard, doesn't he?
But
he's almost 7 foot.
And I felt he was outstanding. I also felt that Isaac Humphries was excellent, as you said about Josh Giddey. And to me, the 3 votes are amongst those 3.
Yeah.
I also Sunday Detch, like to me, he is what he does defensively is, and I know I bang on about it, and I'm a bit of a fan of his, but he can change a game with what he does defensively.
Absolutely.
And not too many people in the history of this league ever been able to do that. Damian Martin does it. Daniel Mee did it. Simon.
Well, I think you're in good company. Damian Martin openly says that Sunday is his favourite defender in the league right now too.
He just doesn't. Well, if he gets beaten, like it's still it makes everyone work for it. So, and I thought Jack McVeigh's minutes were great, and I thought Kendall. I was really.
Well, he plays the way Conor Henry wants his guards to play, which is important.
Yeah, and I just felt comfortable with him on the floor. Now, people are going to disagree with this, and I'm sure we'll see this on all the chat forums and that, and the fact that he did shoot an air ball and he missed a couple other shots, but I felt comfortable with the ball in his hands, and it gave us another ball handler. So I felt he was really important over the course of the game in the 14 or 15 minutes or whatever it was he played, and I think you're probably talking 4 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. But it's not always about statistics. I really liked his game. I didn't mind seeing Brendan Teese come into the game early either, because I felt that that's a steady head. He's not a superstar, but I thought Connor got his rotations right tonight. I guess in hindsight, that shows we had a win.
Absolutely. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll have a bit more time to think about our votes for these first two NBL Cup games. We'll release those on social media. But going into the NBL Cup, the leaderboard looked like this for the Premium Wine Tours Player of the Year award. Isaac Humphries, 18 votes. Daniel Johnson, 17. Josh Giddey on 8. Sunday Detch on 7. I think it's pretty clear that it's going to come down to Isaac and DJ, and the leaderboard shows that.
Oh well, potentially, maybe you never know. You never know what happens.
No.
An injury or Josh Giddey getting on a roll, and but yeah, I mean, the common sense would say that. Look, if I was a betting man, well, I am a betting man, but DJ's just done it for so long. I reckon he might get the chocolates at the end of the day, but. I think the thing with Isaac is, what he does is so spectacular. DJ just goes about his business and gets it done every night. But yeah, it's enthralling. I think I think it'd be really exciting to see what happens at the end of the day. And like I said, I think probably unlucky to someone like because everything with basketball is so statistically based that someone like Sunday probably doesn't get the credit, and maybe when you talk about MVP votes, that he should, because, mate, let's face it, defense is half the game, so it's what he does up that end is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll keep an eye on that. So we'll release those in the next 24 hours leading up to the next game, which is only on Thursday night, and we'll also release our Play of the Week voting, so you can vote quickly for our Play of the Week out of these first two games as well, and the lucky winner will get a prize pack thanks to Australian Motors Mitsubishi. But now, Scott, it's time for us to pick our winner of the prize pack thanks to Australian Motors Mitsubishi this week for our Player of the Week award. This prize pack's proving very popular. I know Laura was able to get her prize pack last week thanks to Australian Motors Mitsubishi. She's very happy with it already, so I hope we can make somebody else very happy now this week. Interesting voting this week. Obviously, Isaac Humphries and Daniel Johnson were up against one another again after the couple of games against the Brisbane Bullets, and it was Isaac Humphries that got the nod from our listeners. And from those of you who voted, thanks again for voting. So make sure you do vote every week for your chance to win. Check out our Facebook page at Sixers Fix with Scott Ninnis, or Instagram or Twitter. Make sure you vote and let us know that you voted so we can put you into the draw. And now, Scott, it's time for your favourite part of the week with the drum roll, and then I'll be picking the lucky winner thanks to Australian Motors Mitsubishi. Okay, Scott, here we go. The lucky winner of the prize pack for this week for voting on our Australian Motors Mitsubishi Player of the Week award is David Reid. So well done to David. Thank you for voting. And we'll be in touch to let you know how we can get that prize pack to you, thanks to Australian Motors Mitsubishi. But Scott, we'll take a deep breath, and when we come back, thanks to Sports Card World, we'll have your chat with the white-haired legend himself, Brett Maher.
But always entertaining, and we'll see what his take on the events are. And welcome back to Sixers Fix. We're joined today by one of our regulars. His name's on the court, three-time Olympian, championship player, MVP winner, you know the rest. Brett Maher, welcome to Sixers Fix.
Thanks, Scotty. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk the Sixers. It's been a wildly inconsistent couple of weeks. We've seen some of those firsthand, but what have you seen? How can they fix some of these inconsistencies and mental lapses that they go through, in your opinion?
Well, their good is really, really good. Like, it's championship material, they're good, but then they have these bad patches that are horrific. So it's really a matter of just extending that those good patches longer. I think shortening the rotations. I think if you have Giddey, Humphries, DJ, Detch, they've got the new import and another new import coming in. That's a really good six-man rotation. I think Jack McVeigh as the seventh man in there, shorten it to a seven-man rotation with some of the others just coming in real bit minutes. I think that gives the players enough time to get in a really good flow, and I think you'll see a lot more consistency out of that as well.
So 6 and 5, at the start of the year, there probably wasn't a lot of the pundits that were giving us much of a chance. Forgetting some of those particularly poor games we've had, would you taken 6 and 5 at the start of the year?
Well, I think when you look at the other teams as well, they've been pretty inconsistent as well. It's not just Adelaide. You look at South East Melbourne, who we played just the other night, for example. They're wildly up and down as well. So yeah, I'd take 6 and 5 under the circumstances. Although we have played a lot of home games in that 11 games. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Now that we've won one in Melbourne, I'm really keen to see how we go over the next couple of games. Hopefully, we can consolidate that.
Well, thankfully, as I said to Chris a little bit early on, we did this podcast after the second game last night, not after the last game against Sydney, which was just a really, just a terrible game. One of the worst quarters we've seen for a long time. That two-headed monster reared its head again with DJ and Isaac Humphries. It's really exciting to see them in full flight, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to think how teams can stop that when they're playing well. You've got DJ who is devastating both inside and outside when he's going. Isaac Humphries, that dunk he threw down is certainly in contention for dunk of the year. That was amazing, and he's been so strong at both ends of the floor. And yeah, when those two are firing, it gives us a real chance, especially when you've got those surrounding players like Giddy and Detch, etc., chipping in.
Speaking about our big men's strength, let's talk about Pinder for a second. Is struggling to find his feet and quite often getting into foul trouble. Is it him just going back to the basics and rebounding and playing defence to try and get himself going? Do you have any thoughts regarding him?
I think at the moment he looks a little bit lost out there at either end. I think giving him a real defined task when he goes out on court, either just to lock someone down and concentrate on that, and just concentrate on one or two things specifically at the offensive end and not allowing him to just have a free rein. I think keep a real tight leash on him, give him some really strict direction, and I think that'll help kind of get a little bit more out of him.
We've had a bit to do with the team with the clinics and the school holiday camps we've done. I think it'd be fair to say that Sunday's been one of our favourites. What we haven't had a defender like him, I don't think, since Darnell or me. He's just exciting to watch and just is a tremendous asset to the team.
Yeah, he is, and not only what he gives on the court, but off the court, he's a very quality person there as well. But yeah, to be able to lock players down, and also he's been fairly consistent at the offensive end, chipping in with some good assists, good points in the games as well. But to be able to build your defense around someone like him, he's a huge asset to the team.
Crocker, there's always focus on imports. He seems to get his numbers. He bobs up. He was probably a little fortunate last night just to stay in the game. That challenge that was successful for us was a huge turning point in the game. It stopped a lot of their momentum. How have you seen his development and where he fits in with the team?
Well, I think he's been serviceable. I think a lot of people would like to have an import there that's scoring 20, giving off 8 assists, etc. But as you said, he's been fairly consistent with around that 12 points each night and chips in at the defensive end. He tends to lose his man occasionally, but he's serviceable at that end. And I think if you've got those other guys firing, DJ, Humphries, Giddy, then he is a very good complementary player as an import spot. And I'm really keen to see what happens once we get the new import into the team with him.
And you just spoke about Josh Giddy. Obviously, there's huge amounts of hype around him. I thought was fantastic last night, and even in the loss to Sydney, he still has 7 rebounds and 7 assists. So he's still finding a way to get it done, even when he's probably not having a great game. I know we've spoken a little bit about his jump shot and some of the things that we maybe could suggest, for him moving forward. But how do you see where he's at the moment?
Well, you say that. The last couple of games, he's actually shot pretty well from behind the 3-point line, and that a lot of that comes down to confidence. And you hit one or two of your first ones, you build that confidence up, and I've been really happy to see him start hitting from behind the 3-point line, because then that opens up his drive into the bucket, and he's so good on both hands around the bucket and finishing, and also his vision in getting some of the other players involved in the game. We've continually talked about that relationship that he's built with Humphreys, and that 1-2 there. That continues to build as well. And I think, it's exciting. It's a shame, as everyone's saying, we'll only see him for a year here, but I'm really enjoying watching his development still over the course of this season, and the little bits and pieces that he's picking up as he's going and making his game stronger.
Finally, let's talk about the coaching staff. Connor Henry and Jamie Perlman. They must be pulling their hair out at times, searching for that consistency and trying to make the adjustments, because, as you've said, we've had some fantastic wins and we've had some god-awful losses as well. How do you think they're travelling at the moment?
Yeah, as you said, I think it'll be tough. With an inconsistent team, it must be really tear your hair out material for when they go back and try and analyse what they need to do to turn it around in those bad games. And then when they have those good games, it's going back and going, how can we continue to bring this week in, week out? And it's obviously a challenge. They're working on it. And I think, as I said, once they get those rotations set, maybe shorten them a little bit, getting some consistency, they'll be a little bit happier.
Yeah, and I made the comment before we went to Melbourne that I thought the bubble could be good for this team. They seem to be a group of guys that genuinely like each other and get on well. And that win last night certainly, hopefully, there's something to work on and should be a much happier camp going into the next game.
Yeah, release a lot of pressure, that's for sure. To get that first win in the bubble out of the way, then it kind of takes the monkey off the back a bit. DJ had probably been putting a little bit of pressure on himself to have a big game over there, and he did that the other night. So, yeah, I think it's looking pretty good for the team, and hopefully, as I said, they can build on this and put together a couple of wins, because with the games so close together, it's a really good opportunity to string a heap of wins together.
Well, always a pleasure, Marzi. I think this is the first time we've had a chat without a glass of red wine in our hands, but it is the middle of the day. But
it might make sense.
But thanks for joining us on Sixers Fix, and we will speak to you later.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Okay, back on Sixers Fix with Scott Ninnis, and I hope you all enjoyed hearing Scott catch up with Brett Maher, thanks to Sports Card World. Well, Scott, we've decided to have a bit of a change on our show this week. We won't be able to bring you our Ask the Coach segment with Connor Henry for this show, but it doesn't mean we won't be bringing it to you this week still. So, obviously, with the little time that we've got between games during the NBL Cup right now, it's a little bit tough to juggle all of this. But what we'll do is we want to get this show out there before the game against Melbourne United, but we also want to make sure we bring you the Ask the Coach segment, because we've got a lot of great questions to throw at Connor Henry from our listeners. So what we'll do, we'll release this show now before the game, but then in between the two games this week, we'll release a special show just featuring the Ask the Coach segment with Connor Henry. So stay tuned for that, and it'll be still brought to you by Sports Card World, of course. We've still got a bit to talk about here, Scott. There's plenty been happening since our last show on Sixers Fix, and one of them is that on the last show we talked about, obviously, that Jeremy Kendall had arrived to replace Donald Sloan, but as it's turned out, we now know who the long-term replacement will be, and that's Brandon Paul. We expect him to arrive in Australia probably this week at some stage. It's tough to get a flight. There's not too many flights coming into the country unless you're a returning citizen right now, but we expect him to probably arrive this week sometime. He'll go through 2 weeks of quarantine. I think logic suggests you probably need at least a week to then train and get himself ready to play. So I think we're looking probably after the NBL Cup for him to play. But what do you think of the signing of Brandon Paul?
Oh, mate, his resume is exciting, obviously, isn't it? It's, if he comes as advertised, he gives that bloke that, can space the floor, hit the three, he's athletic, pretty much everything we need. But, such a tricky one. You know, you sort of come in, you go into quarantine. You know, it almost doesn't matter what sort of shape he comes in with. But, you know, what you're going to be able to do for 2 weeks, and then you've got to acclimatise to the team and get training with them. But yeah, look, everything you talk about would suggest that he's the right person for this team. I think, you know, all our, you know, like if you're being overly critical on our losses, I think we lack speed. You know, we're not we do have a lack of foot speed at times. Some of our spacing offensively has been poor. You know, he's a guy that can help us out with all that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, this is the thing. It's such a weird season that, you know, we just need to win enough games along the way. And once again, he doesn't need to be our saviour. Well, sorry. If we're winning enough games, he doesn't need to be our saviour because we have talent. We have, we've spoke about it. We have the two-headed monster in Daniel Johnson and Isaac Humphries is super exciting. You know, a lot of people didn't think that would work. Now other teams have to plan for that coming to play with us.
Yeah.
You know, if Brandon Paul can come in and you know, be that fall and that provide that outside shooting and give us a bit of speed and tempo, along with Josh Giddey and Crocker and so on, and Sunday, you know, we should be in pretty good shape. But we can't fall in the hole now over these next couple of weeks. We just have to keep our head above board and get ready for the second half of the year.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, now we've seen every team in action in the NBL Cup. We've seen 4 days of double headers, so we have a bit of an idea of what the next 3 weeks are going to look like. Now that we have seen it in reality, what have you made of the NBL Cup so far?
Oh, mate, well, United are still the favourites. I mean, they have too much talent not to be, but, gee, it was disappointing to see them lose a game, wasn't it? And so Landale...
especially to who they lost to.
So see Landale, so you're not going to go undefeated, mate, which was one of the stupidest comments of all time. But anyway, but I mean, they're still the team to go through. But look, Perth, I laugh when everyone, and I've said this before, when everyone talks about Perth, this is the year they're going to make the finals, miss the finals. They never do, ever. 34 years in a row. And, you know, what they did tonight, and, you know, Mooney was just sensational. And Bryce Cotton's the best player we've seen in the last decade, I think at least. And we've had this discussion with, you know, with Marzi and a few of the other people. Like, he has another 4 or 5 years in this league, well, maybe not even that long. Well, he may go down as the best of all time. And, you know, and I don't say that lightly because we're talking about Andrew Gaze and Leroy Loggins and Mark Davis and Scott Fisher, etc., etc., etc. But that's how good he is. He has just been outstanding, and, you know, the shots that he hits is incredible. So I still expect them to go through. Yeah, after that it's a bit of a raffle. And that's why it's important for the 36ers to just keep the head above water, because you know, Illawarra under Brian Goorjian that they'll play well and do what they need to do. But boy, oh boy, it's a raffle there at the moment, and which is exciting. It's awesome.
Well,
it's awesome.
You have no idea who's going to win a game going into them.
Absolutely.
Do you like this tournament though? What do you think of this so far? Do you like this format? Do you like Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are you still undecided about it?
Oh, I think it's a bit of a wank, mate. Like, I mean, you're not going into a game thinking about who's going to win a quarter and a point and all that. But yeah. The other thing is too, like a team like Adelaide, a team like Cairns, a team like Illawarra, they could definitely do with winning the money that's involved as well. But
absolutely.
But there wouldn't be any. I'd be very surprised if there's any coach out there that's going, come on, we need to kick another, like quickly score here to win this quarter to get that point. I mean, that's not the way you go into a basketball game. You're thinking about the process and the win or the loss, which at the end of the day is all that matters. So It's a gimmick. It's great that basketball is still able to exist in this current climate. We're going over to Melbourne ourselves in a couple of weeks, and
good.
going to take in 3 or 4 games. So look, I'm excited about it. Look, I think what Larry Kesselman has done for this league, cannot be understated, because this our competition was dead and buried. Like it was done, and now it's exciting and people are talking about it, and the quality of players when you talk about, Jock Landau and Bryce Cotton and Isaac Humphries and so on and so on.
And then Brokoff to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, we have players who are NBA quality players playing in this league now, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And Scott, of course, this preview now of the couple of games upcoming for the 36ers in the NBL Cup is made possible to All-Star Photos. Once again, Kelly Barnes, thanks to him for his support. Not only does he take photography of the basketball action, though, but he turns it into some fine art, and he's got a very special Art of the Hoops collection that is available. It's available to be bought in prints. You can buy them to be hung up in anywhere in your house. That would make an incredible addition to your home. It would make it look pretty special if you've got that hanging on your wall, whether it's in your lounge room, in your office, in your man cave, in your sports room, wherever in your house. It would be a fantastic addition. And thanks to Sixers Fix, Kelly is making a special discount available to our listeners. If you just mention Sixers Fix or type in the code at allstarphotos.com.au and go to the Art of the Hoops section, you'll get a special discount just for listening to us here at Sixers Fix. So a big thank you to Kelly Barnes and All Star Photos once again. Not much time to rest though for the 36ers, so just the one day in between all the games so far, and that's going to continue. So Thursday night it's back in action against Melbourne United, and then Saturday night against the New Zealand Breakers. What are you expecting to see out of these 2 games?
Mate, I love the fact they're playing United. Complete underdogs. You wouldn't even be able to get a bet on them. Melbourne United will be $1.02 for that win, and I reckon that's great for the 36ers, because I think that you've had that win. They get their recovery right, and a lot of guys play some big minutes tonight, and that's okay, because that's what's happening with every team at the moment. I think that's a perfect team to come in, because there's all the pressures on United now. They come out and there's an expectation that they're going to win every game, as their centre has told us. But I think I don't mind that as if I'm a 36er, because I think the pressure's off, and I think they have trouble with this. I think you can talk about people like Landau, and obviously he's a great player in this league. I think Daniel Johnson is a better player than him, and I don't say I'm not saying that he's a better player than Landau, but what he's shown and what Isaac Humphries shown, probably statistically they've both been better with him. That doesn't, like I said, I expect Landau to be in the NBA next year. I'm not saying they're better players than him, but I think in this league there's an understanding from our guys that we're going to be okay with that. And you still have Golding and Illy out, I'm imagining, who were really important to that team. And they've had guys who've stepped up, but I think this is a great time to get them. I'm not necessarily saying we're going to win. If I was having a bet, I'd probably still bet on United, but I reckon it's a great. And then you get New Zealand after that, who we should beat. We've discussed this, Chris, you and me. What those poor buggers have had to go through is just at some stage they're either they're getting into a crisis point where they're either going to go, okay, we're going to come together and get our shit together, or we're just gonna that's the end for us. So
well, we know how tough it is, and it's got to the point where they've been away from home for 10 or 11 weeks now, and there's no end in sight still, and that's bad enough. But how much tougher is it when you're losing games and not playing well too? I mean, it must be a horrible situation for them to be in.
None of us can even imagine it, because once again, this is a situation that no one's ever been through before. None of us, and even the teams that are going through it now, no one's going through what New Zealand are going through. I can't even fathom what they're going through, at the moment, and I just, I've watched that coaching, and I've made fun of the coach and his assistant coach before, and I said after a home game a couple of weeks ago that I thought it was a bit of a circus because. Because I've never seen an assistant coach being able to get away what he gets away with. But my God, like that is just what they've had to do with. I can't imagine. So once again, if you're the 36ers, you've got to go in and beat them. Like they're down, they're struggling. You just got to go and win that game. So that, I guess, with the United game. It's once again you go in and win, jag that win and then get the win against New Zealand, then all of a sudden you're in really, really good shape. But as we've seen, you could lose both those games as well.
Yeah, we thought that a couple of weeks ago during that 3-game winning streak, and then things quickly turned around. So things can change quickly, but I think you're right. I think the Melbourne game is a free hit, but the New Zealand game is a must win. So that's pretty much how these two games shape up. And then there's a bit of a few days off for them to rest, so they just need to throw everything into these two games, leave nothing in the tank, and on Sunday then you can rest and regroup a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's once again, I like your comment. It's a free hit, which it is, but it's this is just like nothing we've ever seen before. I mean, as a player, getting to play every second day is. Brett and I were talking about it. This would be a dream come true. No training. Yeah. You just get to play. You recover. You do the right thing. I think it's just this is 20 years ago for me too. But I just think it's awesome. I just think it's great. You look after your body. What you don't want is that niggling little injury where you turn your ankle. Yeah. That would normally have you out for a week. Well, that could mean 3 games at the moment. So. Yeah. Just got to look after yourself, do the recovery, do the right thing, and this is going to sort out the men from the boys. This hub, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Been a lot of fun doing this show. I'm glad we timed it how we did, Scott. It's funny how these things work out. It worked out nicely for us. And again, thanks to Australian Motors Mitsubishi for helping us bring this to you. Thanks to Sports Card World for bringing our discussions with Brett Maher and Connor Henry to you. Thanks to All Star Photos for making this possible as well, and also our Player of the Year award thanks to Premium Wine Tours. We'll be back again after these next 2 games in the NBL Cup, and hopefully we've got a couple more wins to talk about from the 36ers. But until then, I'm Chris Pike, and I'll sign off and leave you with the wise words of the one and only Scott Ninnis.
I said at the start of the show, Chris, all I can say is thank God that we waited till after this second game, because after that Kings game, we would have been I don't know about yourself, but I would have been the grumpiest man in the world. I would have found it really hard to find any positives about that Sydney game. And that's the beautiful thing about basketball, because 2 days later, we're all on a high, we've had a win, and all of a sudden you got a nose in front again. So look forward to going bigger and better things.